Hello, 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 good people. You know what time it is. It's 12 o'clock on the drop. It's tea o'clock. Welcome to the tea room, everyone. I'm so happy to be with you. It's been a while. I have an exciting, savory show in store for you today. So come on in. I'm going to let everyone take a minute to come into the tea room and get situated. Because as you know how we do, I'm bringing you conscious reality. We're expanding our conversation so that we can expand our lives. So who's with me? Who's here? Let me see. Hi, William. Lauren, what are you? Are you here? And my cousin, Sunshine. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and dive in as people are coming into the tea. Well, first, let me know what you're drinking. I have a special treat today. I actually have my own blend, my own Caryn MediTEAtions Daily Detox blend. And, you know, the season's changing, y'all. We're moving into fall. The fall equinox, really a time for tuning within and kind of composting old ideas, letting leaves fall away, letting negative beliefs fall away, and just really kind of creating a new template and energy for what's to come. So I'm excited. Okay, well, let's go ahead and dive into our topic today, which is MediTEAtions with Caryn, coming home to yourself, an intimate conversation with none other than Victoria Rowell. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Victoria describes herself as a farm girl at heart, and I love that. So go ahead and get your gloves and your shovel because we're digging in deep today, I promise you. And when I was sitting with this idea of farming and soil and germination, I was thinking about the seed, and a seed literally has everything it needs within itself to fulfill its purpose on the planet. So there is an intelligence to it. An apple seed is not confused, and it won't become a cantaloupe. It knows exactly what it is. So there is a divine intelligence to a seed that I think is just so exquisite and really speaks to us, because I think we're seeds and we're certainly planting seeds. So then I started to examine this ideal of tilling our soil, right? And our soil being our consciousness, being our mindset. And tilling is all about kind of excavating, pruning, pulling up the weeds. So some of us, and I certainly can speak to this, have some weeds, some old beliefs, some old stagnant energy that we can pull up and pull out. And I really want to frame this conversation around that so that we enter our time together on MediTEAtions much differently and much more expanded than how we came into it. And I think when we're tilling our soil, our consciousness, our mindset, and removing those weeds, we have an opportunity to then plant seeds of purpose and seeds of power and seeds of passion. And I know we're all feeling this, so I'm going to give way and space to our untimely ancestor, Mr. Chadwick Boseman, who planted and sowed so much power into us as a culture. But he had this to say, and I think it fits for the theme and where we're going today. When you're deciding on your next steps, next job, next careers, further education, you should rather find purpose than a job or a career. Purpose crosses disciplines. Purpose is an essential element of you. It is the reason you are on the planet at this particular time in history. Whew, that was a whole word. That was a lot, y'all. And that really resonated with me. And I think that as we are moving with this idea of planting seeds and cultivating our seeds and listening to Chadwick Boseman and my special guest, what I love about Victoria and why I wanted to bring her on today is she talks about your invisible inheritance. And those are the invisible gifts that you have. And I think the more that we water that and create the soil, the right conditions, because the seed is determined, right? It comes up through the soil, it breaks through. The more we water that energy, then the more we are aligned to why we're here on the planet. And she describes it as your invisible gifts. And I think for me, one of them is connecting with people. I love to connect, and I can be in any room and kind of connect on a meaningful level. So I invite you to look at within your own life, what are some of your invisible gifts? So that's my question to you. And go ahead and drop it in the comments. What do you bring to the table? Is it levity and laughter? Do you bring humor? Do you bring a sense of stability? Are you pragmatic in structure? So all of us have that unique soul print, that signature that we're here to deliver. So go ahead and let me know. I'm going to check in with you guys. Thank you, James Nora. She says, I feel that. I feel you too. And thank you so much for that. George is here. And of course, my doc is here. Doc Camille, I love you. And Audrey Harris. So without further ado, let's keep going in our conversation because we have a lot to unpack today. Invisible inheritance. That brings me to my very special guest, the woman that we all have been waiting for. And let me give her proper intro. The incomparable Victoria Rowell is an Emmy-nominated NAACP award-winning actress, international lecturer. She holds 2 honorary doctorates. She is a teacher, advocate, mother, and former foster youth. Victoria has been recognized by 193 members of Congress for her advocacy on the work on behalf of education, arts, foster and adoptive youth, and parents, as well as diversity issues. What's amazing about Victoria, y'all, and if you don't have her books, I'm telling you, you got to get them. She is a New York Times best-selling author. Her memoir, The Women Who Raised Me, is powerful, and she has such a unique and rich story. It was published by HarperCollins. And Victoria, born and raised in Maine, as I mentioned, on 60 acres of working farm, learned classical ballet from a book eventually, but then she received a dance scholarship and turned her professional ballet life into an illustrious career with the American Ballet Theater and other professional ballet companies. Currently, she is the executive producer, creator, and host of the lifestyle reality series Trash versus Treasure on UMC TV. So we're going to dive into that when we bring Victoria on. She is a veteran in the entertainment field. Victoria has been on our screens and in our hearts for decades. Shows like The Cosby Show, Ghost Whisperer, and The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, of course. We remember her with Dick Van Dyke on the primetime series Diagnosis Murder. And perhaps Victoria Rowell is best known for playing the legendary role of Drusilla Winters on The Young and the Restless, breaking barriers yet again in daytime television for over 17 years. Ladies and gentlemen of the tea room, please help me welcome our living legend and iconic figure and powerhouse of a woman, our very own Auntie Vicky, Miss Victoria Rowell.
Hi, Caryn.
Hello. Hello, Victoria.
Hi,
Thank you for being here. Let me
My
clear this
pleasure.
off. Thank you so much. So I have a comment here that I'm going to, thank you, Audrey. Love your comment. So how are you, Victoria? How's everything going with the pandemic? With I know you're in prep on something. There's a lot going on.
Well, Caryn, first, let me give you your flowers, okay?
Oh,
and the seed talk. Oh, yes.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
flowers.
And Victoria, I don't know if you know this, but sunflowers are actually my most favorite flower. And anybody who knows me is, yeah, it's my absolute favorite flower.
See?
Yes.
Look at God.
Yes.
I'm well. My family is well, thank God. Playing it safe, being smart, and sharing
Yes.
and caring. And that's how I am. I'm staying creative. I'm staying mobile. I'm still working out, taking care of self so I can take care of others. That's how I am.
Yes, putting your oxygen mask on first, watering your seeds so that you can sow into others, right?
Yes,
I mean, that's what it's about. So I have to ask you, Victoria, what are you drinking?
Well, I love chamomile.
Yes.
I love chamomile tea, Caryn, but you know what? If you don't have the chamomile or the tea, just get some warm water and some lemon, people. It doesn't have to be all that.
It really doesn't. It really doesn't. And if you don't even have that, just get some water. Like, let's put the sugary sodas down. Especially as we're moving into the fall, the seasons are changing. Really want to fortify our immune system. So I want to dive in, Victoria. So I love this idea of your invisible inheritance. And there was a talk, I think, in Rochester where you spoke about that. So there's a lot of women who shaped you, I believe it's Agatha Armstead. Am I saying that correctly?
That's correct.
Who first introduced you to the idea of gardening, and you said that you learned your lessons about life literally with seeds. So tell us a little bit about that.
Caryn, thank you for doing the homework and just your sincere interest. I know you care about women and children, family, mother, wife, yourself. I just was taught to be obedient to the mother, the ultimate mother, which is Mother Nature. Okay.
Yes. Come on now, Auntie.
Okay. So as farmers, you have to be obedient to nature, or else you won't have a crop for the winter. So it was that simple. That's how I was taught. We harvested our seeds. We also bought new seeds, but my elderly foster mother of 10 of her own, really taught me to respect nature, the seeds. She would start germinating the tomato plants in the house in the early spring. She'd start planting them in the peat pots in the house so that we had the seedlings, to plant. So, I mean, we really understood the plants. We go for walks. She talked to me about the acorn, the importance of the acorn, the power of an acorn and the oak tree. I mean, you really have to look at the small things. I'm so glad that you're drilling down on the seed, the mustard seed. It's so significant. And right now, especially, it's a teachable moment, this pause in this pandemic, which is very serious. But at the same time, it's making us all take a step back and look at what's really important and to simplify.
To simplify, which, when we go to trash versus treasure, I want to talk a little more about that simplification process. And what's beautiful about that is that you really help and guide us to see the beauty of what's right before us. And I think this grand COVID pause is causing us to do that. What I also really appreciate about what you said is this idea that bowing down to Mother Nature, that in all instances, she will win. And it's about working in harmony with that and coming in balance with that, both within ourselves internally and then externally with the people in our society and our culture. And with this extreme weather, I feel like Mother Nature has a lot to say. Right?
Caryn, Auntie Vicky, hashtag Auntie Vicky. I did my walk around the LA Reservoir. I love it because there's so much nature around the LA Reservoir. And if you haven't checked it out, people, please check it out. But watch out with the heat. Get your work out on, be inspired when you're walking. But the heat is real. And anytime that we in the United States, we're at the epicenter of what's being determined as one of the hottest days here in Death Valley, 136 degrees. I mean, come on. We are really in biblical times. You can't say we're not. I mean, look at this.
Things are heating up. And I think the earth is really reflecting the political climate and how hot things are getting with our racial injustice and across the spectrum, not just dealing with black and white, but, with sexuality, just with people, just like I believe, like you said in one interview, live and let live. You know what I'm saying? Like, as long as I'm respecting and honoring you, and you're doing the same for me, then I'm all good. But it's an interesting time right now. So to that end, Aunt Vicky, since we get to get real on this conversation, y'all, and let me make sure that I'm tuning into the audience, because I know you guys have questions. Thank you, Lauren. She said, gardening connects you to God and the earth in a way that is unexplainable. Yes, ineffable. You must experience it for yourself. Yes.
True.
And I mean, there's just so many places we can go with that, with just how food is bastardized and manipulated. And let's go to our soul food. What can we do, the audience, all of us in this conversation, to nurture those seeds, those gifts that we have? What are some of the ways that you've done that? Because you've broken barriers literally coming into this earth, Victoria. Like, you were in the foster system for 18 years, raised by beautiful, dynamic women, have overcome so many odds. So what are some of the tools that you use in your life that we can apply in our own?
Well, Caryn, thank you for asking the question and also the comments that are coming in. I just want to say, people, don't be afraid of getting your hands dirty.
I love that.
Marching means rolling up your sleeves and getting involved to change the paradigm anywhere, anytime means rolling up your sleeves, and you're going to get dirt under your fingernails. That's just the way it is. And there's two types of marchers. There's two types of people. There's people on the sidewalk that are going to clap you up, and they're going to hand you the waters and the granola bars, and we need you too. But then we have people that are going to walk right down the middle of the street. You're going to take some lumps, and worse, we're seeing people really hurt and dying for cause, but that's always been the case. So that's a decision that's between you and God. But how you can apply right now seeds to your life. When we march, we're marching for purpose. When we're helping someone, we are passing on what was shared with us. That's how I feel. I'm just a conduit on the planet. And we just have to get up every day and do the best that we can. And it starts with taking care of self. And I go back to the root of self. Look, if you're going to drink a whole bunch of grape drink, I'm not against Tang. I'm not against any, the chips, the whole nine, the ding dongs, and the whole. Knock yourself out.
Right.
But I just want to say out loud, you got to mix that up with some collard greens, with some garlic and chopped tomato.
Yes.
With some kale and some smoothies. You got to mix that up with a lot of water and exercise, and you got to sweat. Listen, people, I'm in Hollywood. I understand the weave. I understand the wig. I understand beauty and glamour.
Hashtag black girl problems, hair problems. Right.
Okay.
Right.
But at the end of the day, Caryn, if I'm lying, I'm flying. You've got to sweat.
Yes.
Pigs don't sweat. I know, because we raise pigs up in Maine. They don't have sweat glands. But we as people were meant to sweat. We've got
I love that.
You've got to sweat it out. There's a reason why we have sweat glands. The toxins, especially now. You can't let hair dictate your health, period. I start there. Good food, lots of water. Okay, if you're going to have a drink and do this, that, and the third, do it in moderation. And pray. And be grateful. And I'm not here to dictate how you pray. It can be to a tree. You might burn a candle. Or you might burn some sage. I'm just saying, be grateful. And so those are just a few things before we even get into other minutiae of how we start. But the seed of self is first.
I love that. The seed of self. And, Victoria, you take a very humanistic approach to life in your art, being an activist. And as I mentioned before, it feels like you have done things that are not popular, that have put you on the outs, but you've stood on the right side of what is true as a human being, first and foremost. If you could talk a little bit about being on a daytime show, being a daytime legend, and if you guys don't know this, you have to check out her podcast, The Secrets of a Soap Opera Diva, that Entertainment Speakers puts out, which is hilarious. I mean, I can sit there in the kitchen cooking and listen to the podcast. It's wonderful, you guys. So check out the episodes. But you really brought home, I don't know if a lot of people know, that the audience for soap operas is largely African-American women, particularly even in Louisiana. But when you were on the soaps, there was no representation. There were no key decision makers of color, and yet they were servicing an audience of color. So how did you have the gumption to stand up and be a voice for that?
Caryn, foster care really prepared me for life.
Yes.
Because 18 years of foster care is going to, it's been a roadmap. It's been a blueprint for me. I met a lot of people. I saw a lot of life. And one of the most enduring things that I remember is the sacrifices that people made to make space for me. And so when I saw people, these were not wealthy people, these were poor people who were taking care of me. And so I saw a lot of injustice. I saw racial injustice, of course. And that impacts a child. We may not be able to explain it in a sophisticated fashion, but we're making that information, and I banked it. When I saw Injustice, where I worked in daytime drama television for broadcast, I said something. I said, we need Black hairstylists, plural. We need Black makeup artists. Where is Black press? Where are the Black photographers that are asking me, Vicki, we're never invited to seminal moments.
Wow.
There's never been any Black casting to this day in all of broadcast daytime soap opera television. There's never been an African-American executive producer. I mean, not a co-executive producer. I'm talking about a sole Black executive producer or a Black head writer. And I could go on ad infinitum. What I'm saying here is that there is a disparity. And when I see disparity, having grown up in it, I say something, because until justice includes all of us, until we all have fair economic parity and inclusion, then it's injustice. It's not justice for all. And that's what this march is about as well. It's about economic inclusion. How are you going to have an audience that's overwhelmingly African American when Black people are spending over 1.3 trillion annually, Caryn, right?
Yes,
It's going to buy more Pampers from Procter & Gamble than any other group. And I could go on because I'm in show business. I'm going to buying the brand.
Right.
So when I know I am pulling in an audience share for a show, and I don't see anybody behind the camera that looks like me or Shamar Moore or Christophe St. John or Brighton James, and on and on and on, I'm going to say something. That's just called courage. And that's just called the right thing to do. And
that's called breaking out of sweat. Another form of sweating. You know what I'm saying? Like it's the purification. It's getting your nails dirty. It's doing the work that you talked about.
It's doing the work, Caryn. It's doing the work. So, you know, that's not popular with many in the corporate strata, not just in television, but it's not popular. It's one thing if you bring in the ratings, everybody loves you. When you ask for that C-suite corner office, that's a different matter. You know,
come on now.
We don't want to talk to you because now you're pushing in on real money. So
yes,
I really had a lot of opportunity to bring forth concerns, and I presented those concerns for consideration for change right across the board, from African Americans being on the covers of soap opera magazines to the considerations of us as writers, producers, directors, etc., on and on.
And my Christy Ferris is here, a dear friend of mine, hey CP, who had issues on her soap passion as well. So I think, you know, soaps and the suds are reflective, obviously, of what we're seeing on a macro level in our country and our culture as a whole. So I really applaud you and want to honor you for taking a stand. It's bringing to mind, you know, good old Colin Patrick, where he was, you know, bastardized and hated upon for taking a stance. And now people, those who didn't see, are starting to kind of get an inkling. And I kind of feel like it's the same thing with you, Victoria, that you've been speaking about this for a long time. And we've made changes, but we still have a long way to go. You guys go ahead and drop some questions for Aunt Vicki. Audrey Harris said, that's right. Oh my God, you better tell it like it is. That's right, my son. Thank you, Christy. A theme that is very clear in your book, Victoria, that I appreciate your authenticity is mental health, which I think is really big in the zeitgeist, because we're all in our own way dealing with what's happening on a global level and then our own personal pandemics. And speaking of St. John, I want to ask you if that's okay, Christophe, just to honor him. I know that you were very close. If you have any thoughts about him and for anyone who may be struggling right now.
Well, I want to say, you know, it's a big shout out to Viacom CBS and BET Her and Mega Mind Media for putting attention on mental health in the Black community, recently asking me to direct a movie titled Everything is Fine.
Yes.
And Kim Fields, our colleague, also directed a movie about mental health in the Black community, Baby Blue. And there is a new emphasis on mental health in our community. And it needs to be, so that we can work through the stigma that Black and brown communities put on mental health. If we can't have the conversation amongst ourselves, then who then?
Right.
We already are looking at an incarceration rate and death rate of people suffering from mental illness in our community. We're seeing it play out on national news right now. Instead of having the proper personnel in mental health coming to address issues, people are being and have been historically arrested and thrown into jail. So this is what we need to talk about. In terms of my colleague and friend, Christophe St. John, God bless his soul, he really worked hard to help his son, Julian. It was an incredibly painful time for him. And then obviously for Christophe's father as well, who I remain in touch with, Christopher St. John, for his whole family. I just will simply say that as friends, sometimes all you can do is be there, to have an open ear. We're not medical professionals necessarily, but just to be there, to be a listening heart goes a long way. It may not be the end all be all, but be there. Don't cast judgment, because you do not know what someone else may be going through sitting right beside you. Check on your strong friends. Hashtag check on your strong
friends. Yeah. That's powerful. And Daniel Ferguson, who's my producing partner in MediTEAtions, appropriately has Black Panther, says trauma is one of the most overlooked issues in Black and brown communities. And speaking to not knowing the path that someone is walking, Chadwick Boseman exemplified that beautifully. Here he was, a man that was fighting for us while he was literally fighting for his own life. And so it just really brings to mind just having grace and compassion for other people. That's a seed I want to drop into our MediTEAtions talk today. Grace and compassion for ourselves and for other people. I have to shout out to my mother, because my mother is on here. Hi, mommy. And what are you saying? Hi, Akiba, thank you for being here. Megamind Media, Baby Blue was shot in my house. That's awesome. That's great. Hi, Latasha. Thank you for joining us. Hashtag the best CRJM fan leader. Latasha is an amazing person who is really supportive of Craig and I's show. So I just want to shout her out.
Hey, Craig.
Yeah, hey, Craig, my husband is here. He asked a question about he asked Aunt Vicky, how did we break out a sweat? We kind of moved on from there, honey. But if you do want to answer that, go ahead and answer while I
break out a sweat. Okay, I'm saying you've got to move. So for example, when I'm in my house, when I do hashtag Auntie Vicky at the stove, cooking with Auntie Vicky.
Yes.
When you're in the kitchen, anyone who is like me, you don't break a sweat, because cooking requires work. I'm using the look at those dogs, Caryn. Where are they?
All right, it's my little chihuahua.
We have to have our
say hi to Auntie Vicky, Chloe. Say hi to everybody. Say hi to the folks.
Wow. Hi.
We have a pit bull too, Mo.
Okay. All right. Well,
so let's go ahead. Keep going.
I'm nothing against pit bull, but anyway, I'm lifting that cast iron pot. I am sweeping. I am working. Hi, Craig Ross.
Yes.
Somebody usually work up a sweat. I am working. I'm not waiting for a cleaning person. Not everyone's having a cleaning person coming to the house, because the cleaning crew coming in to bring in all their world. So not everybody's up with COVID, bringing everybody into space. So Auntie Vicky's dancing. I have got Earth, Wind, and Fire on. I've got some Anita Baker. I've got I got my Brazilian music. My throwbacks. I've got my throwbacks going. I've got my Milton Nascimento. Oh my God, I got some Liz Wright going. Oh yes,
Aretha Franklin, all of it. Yes,
some Tavares. Don't play.
Fela Kuti. Come on, y'all. Drop in the comments what we could do to get our sweat. We're going to be sweating with our video, okay?
And we're dancing while we're moving. Okay, we gotta move our bodies, even though you're in your house. You know, use that couch to do the stretching. You know,
I love that.
There's all kinds of ways. Well, not everybody can do a push-up. Fine, then bend your knees, roll out a mat, a towel, bend your knees, and just lower the upper torso back and forth. You can go online on Instagram. I'm doing all kinds of demos. You don't have the weights. Get the 1 pound cans of yams,
or bags of rice.
Yes. Yes, it's all kinds of things, Caryn.
Yeah, I love that. And Lauren is saying we must normalize taking care of ourselves mentally as well as physically. Yes, have that time, meditate, drink your tea, some meditation, and get to moving. Oh, Clarissa's here. Who? Hi, document. No, she didn't say to our. Yes, she did. That's Aunt Vicky for you. Glad to have you here. See, Clarissa's in the house. Thank you. Any more questions? Oh, Daniel said we got to exchange playlists.
Yes. I love it.
I hope that answered your question, husband. Let's see some other comments. There was one on here that I thought was really powerful. Hi, James. I see you. Gratitude goes a long way. It's impossible to be grateful and complain at the same time. Ain't that the truth? I love that. So speaking of gratitude, I want to jump into trash versus treasure. So let's talk about that, which is a wonderful show on UMC, y'all, umc.tv, our home network. I have the great honor of working with Miss Victoria. So tell us about this. How did that come about? What can we expect, and how can we apply it in our own life? That's always my question. How can we apply it?
Well, let me just say to the audience before I launch in on trash versus treasure. Caryn starred in my soap opera, and we are in pre-production for the 4th season of The Rich and the Ruthless, also available on UMC TV and Amazon Prime Video and Roku. So, Caryn, you got us off the ground, and I can't say enough about that. But
I love being Roxanne. I know that. And you actually supported me when I had my baby. You know, that was a challenging time for me trying to go back and figure out who are you as a mom and an actress. And I have to say, you really supported me in that, Victoria. And I appreciate that about you. But that's awesome about season 4. Yay.
Yes. We're very excited about filming that. We start this month. But also, as you know, our UMC family, shout out to Brett DeSmook, Sylvia George, and the fam. Thank you so much. Trash versus Treasure is an amazing show, not because I'm the producer of it, but because I know it affects millions of people, not only domestically, but globally. AMC Networks is our parent company of UMC TV. And when I got the green light to do this show, which I've wanted to do forever, I was just over the moon. It's about repurposing what's in plain sight, Caryn. It's about, if you've got a crate, turn it on its side. Like if you have the milk crates, the plastic ones, stack them. They become stools. Use your ironing board. Lower it to a desk. It can be lowered again for a desk for preschoolers, especially when we have so many children having to study and do homework at home. We have to create virtual classrooms now, Caryn, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
If you have the table all the way up to its top level, it becomes a dining space. It becomes a breakfast nook. And then you can like totally flatten out that bad boy and put 2 pillows on your laps. And then it's a tray for breakfast in bed for 2. Oh, don't get me started.
Oh, yeah, no, let's get started. I love that. I love that. But the idea of someone else's trash is your treasure, and of noticing and seeing what's right before your eyes. And I think the takeaway for me is looking at my own life physically, the things that are right before my eyes, and the gifts that we often take for granted. What's really cool about this is that when we think of the DIY, do-it-yourself lifestyle reality shows, we're traditionally focused on wealthy or affluent, or let's flip this house. But you are servicing the Black and Brown community, and in many instances, single parent homes and low income families, which is a unique twist that we haven't seen. And you're hosting, so it's like so many check marks of barriers that you've crossed off that I think is really amazing.
I really wanted to put attention on mothers as an homage to my foster mothers. Not all of them were single parent family homes. But I wanted to drill down on women, minority women, mothers. One of my clients is an actual physical street sweeper in Kingston, Jamaica. I can see clear out through her house to the street because of the slats, mother of two. And these are small dwellings, typically 1 room, 2 rooms. There's a house in Carson where there's 3 generations of children, grandmother, elderly, medically compromised. And it's amazing what you can do with what's in plain sight. These people recognize their space. They're in the space. They're helping me move things along. It's a teachable moment show. Yes, I'm not pulling up walls or pipes, Caryn.
Right, yeah.
I might have to move someone out to a hotel for 1 night so I can get the paint on the wall as needed. But this is really about recognizing what you have in plain sight, reusing some of the pre-existing items, found objects, goodwill, Habitation for Humanity, Restore, and some new stuff, but really about examining, for the world to examine the abundance there is in this world, and also shedding light, as you said earlier, on millions of people who are invisible because they're poor, because they live on the fringe, people who are on the cusp of being evicted right now. So, yeah.
Which is, and I'm glad you brought that up, which is why coming home to yourself was the topic that came to me. And I always check in and tune in with my guests and what I want to talk about. I usually talk about it with my mother. Shout out to you again, Mommy. Just speaking about mothers and home, because there's so many who are displaced right now. There's so many who are fighting to stay in their homes. There's so many who are being evicted from their homes and feeling disenfranchised. And whether you're physically going through that or just feeling alone right now in your spirit, in your heart, I wanted to with you, because you have such a rich template of finding and creating your home right within yourself because of your experiences early in life, that I wanted to offer that as a conversation for us, coming home to ourselves, which for me is about coming home to the truth of who you are, your authenticity, and nurturing those invisible inheritance that you spoke about. Hi, Ashley. Great to see you. I love you and Mama Sherwell. Yes. Love my mama too. It's one of my good girlfriends. So speaking of foster care, and there's CASA, which is a court-appointed special advocate for children, where people, if I'm understanding it, everyday people, and I invite all of us on here, can actually be trained to go to court on behalf of children. Am I getting that right?
Spot on, Caryn. And I love how you've drilled down on finding the home within self. And many people have to do that, especially now, but the court-appointed special advocates, not unlike guardian ad litems, represent children in court. Because our court system, we have approximately, it hovers around 500,000 children in foster care any given time, let alone COVID, and immigration. So it's a very noble commitment. I think it's a minimum of 3 years. And you are representing children because there's just not enough family attorneys to represent children in court. Here in Los Angeles, we have the Edelman Courthouse, Children Family Courthouse. And once a year, typically, don't know what's going to happen in November, but we have what is National Adoption Day, where we are able to cut through all the red tape and execute thousands of adoptions.
Oh, wow.
Simultaneously, well, not simultaneously, but on that one day. So we can cut through the court, the judges can cut through all the red tape. It's a really extraordinary day. And I've been involved in some of those adoptions, but thank you for bringing up CASA.
Yeah, it's important. I wanted that definitely to be a part of this conversation. It's certainly a part of your legacy and the seeds that you have planted and sown into the planet. Just coming back to this idea of we all have a unique gift. And my mother introduced me to a book by Panache Desai. And it's about our soul signature, our soul print, like a fingerprint, that we all have a purpose for being here. And my intention with MediTEAtions each time I do it is for us to leave more expanded and more connected. And so I'm really appreciating this opportunity to speak with you about this. And I think all of us let's show Auntie Vicky some love, because I know that we're all being fortified through this conversation. I wanted, while I have you, Victoria, because I know you're in prep and you have to get back, I want to talk about this secrets of a soap opera diva. So let's go into that. Let me drop this down so I can see your beautiful face, and I'll pull it up in a bit. How did that come about? I know that you're working with people that you and I both love, Entertainment Speakers Bureau, which is the I don't know another platform that is doing the diversity and the expertise in entertainment, media, and technology the way speakers is doing. Entertainment Speakers.
Yes. Entertainment Speakers Bureau. That's our fabulous leader, Angela Northington.
Yes.
I can't say enough about Nichelle Prothero. I'm saying Nichelle.
Yes. Nichelle, yes, we love you, Nichelle. Angela, yes.
Sorry. It just has been an amazing experience working with Entertainment Speakers Bureau. But yes, so what conjured the whole thing and what really solidified launching Secrets of a Soap Opera Diva, wherever podcasts are available, 5 episodes, behind the scenes talk about African-American contributions from Cicely Tyson to Morgan Freeman, Blair. People don't understand. You know, we go to Angie and Jesse. We go to Ellen Hawley. We really talk. People don't know that Ruby Dee was in daytime. What? So I talk about Brock Peters in daytime, and like, why isn't anyone talking about this? In daytime, like, this is a legacy. So I talk about it. So we saw that for the first time in the history of broadcast soap opera television, they ran out of episodes during COVID-19. Never happened.
Wow.
Right? So in 47 years, Young and the Restless, for example, I was on the show for many, many years, and they ran out of episodes. So they put out an ask, who do you want to see in the reruns? A lot of people wanted to see Drusilla.
Of course.
Family, okay, thank you. And so they started showing the reruns, and just a tidal wave of questions came out, Caryn, and it was the right time to launch the podcast so that I could answer questions and get the word out, especially during peaceful protest, to talk about the need for the multi-billion-dollar industry of broadcast television on air since the 1940s, started in the 30s on radio to sell Oxydol soap for Procter & Gamble. Yes. Let's have the conversation about why soap opera and day part television isn't, as far as I can tell, part of the industry conversation, and why we aren't having the real convo about where are African Americans as showrunners, writers, producers, and soap opera owners of shows. Why aren't we having that discussion at the table, ABC, NBC, CBS?
And Lauren is saying Letitia Wright just had to ask for a Black makeup and hairstylist, SMH, which goes to your point. Right. Those are some of the basic privileges that you were fighting for that we're still seeing. And although it may seem minor in comparison, it really just speaks to the audacity of taking up space. And you know what I mean? Like, it's
Caryn, the bottom line is, I know it may not be right today. It might be a little less because the daytime broadcast audience has slid a bit, but they were getting $50 million a year. Now, any show that has a budget of $50 million a year, and you tell me you can't find one position, and I'm not interested in one anyway. Don't pat yourself back.
Right.
One no, I don't want to hear it. It's just as racist. I'm talking about, how do you have a budget of $50 million a year? Might as well be 30 million. Doesn't matter. How can you not have diversity when you're depending on that Black wallet, that power of the Black purse, and you have the audacity to tell me that You don't have a Black hairstylist, a Black makeup artist, a Black writer, director, showrunner, Black nobody in casting, PR, and the coordinating producer, and the list goes on, and still is happening. We need to be at the table, NAACP, while you're papering that deal with Viacom CBS. If we're not part of that deal, which is in the millions of dollars that we keep ticking, we're the one that keeps that suds going, those bubbles going, because we are the consumer viewers that are the primary audience. And if we're not at the table, if we're not in on a deal to have one of those stages with a Black show for broadcast after, let me just say it, we know that right now at CBS, with the 2 soap operas that are still airing, Young and the Restless and Bold and the Beautiful, that's 80 years in broadcast TV and not a single Black soap opera invited to the table. In 600 years, Caryn, the aggregate of over 600 years of all soap opera broadcast.
Wow. When you put it like that, it's mind-boggling.
Right. So the 600 years, people say 600 years, you've got to be kidding. That can't be true. Yes, but soap operas, you have to remember, are on air for 40 years, 50 years.
Exactly. Every day, right.
Every day. So if you do the aggregate, it's over 600 years of broadcast airtime, and not a single Black-owned soap opera, not a single Black standalone executive producer, not a single Black head writer. Now you tell me something isn't wrong.
Damn.
600 years aggregate. That's a damn shame. That's racism. Yeah. That's willful blindness, and that's fraternal, and that's what we're talking about in terms of economic.
And what people need to get, that they think of racism in a bubble, like if you say the N-word or something. Racism is a system. It's a system where benefits and services one group of people over the other. So what you're talking about is a systemic racism that runs the gamut from the makeup chair on top to the corporate decision makers who are making and leeching money from Black and brown eyeballs and bodies. Yet they're not servicing those Black and brown bodies in the terms of work, employment, and decision making. So that's pretty that's compelling. And this is an important conversation that I think needs to be a part of our dialogue right now.
Caryn, if you don't mind, I'd like to just take it one step further. When Katrina happened, and I knew our number one audience, thank you. And I knew our number one audience centered in Louisiana, and nobody wanted to talk about it because it's not sexy on Madison Avenue advertising. All right, fine. I'm unhappy about that, but I'm going to talk about, I'm proud that Black women are the secret weapon that keeps Young and the Restless at number one. So given that our number one audience missed all those episodes in Louisiana during Katrina, I went to Sony Pictures Television, which owns 51% of Young and the Restless. May I have the shows? Well, why? Well, here's why. They're our audience, and they've been bussed out here with trash bags of belongings, and they're staying at the Dream Center Church, which shout out to Magic Johnson, who did a lot for those Katrina victims, but that I had to strenuously request episodes so that this population of people who keep us at number one could watch the lost episodes as a form of entertainment after all the trauma, which we're talking about, they went through. Nobody showed up from the show, not one executive, not one actor.
Are you serious?
And it really said a lot to what we already know. We're marginalized and just want the money because our dollar spends the same, but not given the same economic inclusion. But that gives you an idea. Furthermore, after making multi-millions of dollars, because you have to understand, Young and the Restless is exported to over 100 countries. So now that Black women, a Black audience, has made the show number one, the show is then exported because it's exportable. We've made it famous. We've made it successful. So
I've seen that. Have you noticed that with a lot of the networks, that they build their brand on the backs of Black people, Black women in particular, and then they kind of discard them once they reach the level that they need to get to. It's kind of like reflective of what it means to be a Black woman in this country. It's pretty overwhelming.
It is overwhelming, but we have an opportunity. We have an opportunity. Bob Johnson has given us an opportunity with UNC TV, because he's always, along with Sheila Johnson, have had the vision that there is a space that is not being addressed for the Black and brown community. I'm going to create Black entertainment television, BET.
Yes.
UMC.
Which is the streaming. Exactly.
The only Black streaming company for Black content and content providers like you and Craig.
Right. And, at the dinners that we've had with Mr. Johnson, the UMC dinners, shout out, as you said, to Brett Dismuke and Nikki Love, that he's very particular on creating a creative ecosystem where we can feed into it our Black content and reap from it. And we have to be bold enough and willing enough to plant those seeds so that they will germinate and grow for future generations to have legitimate economic parity and ability to create content where we're reflected in unique ways. Thank you for this comment, Daniel Ferguson. I agree. Craig Ross Jr.'s Monogamy qualifies as a Black-owned soap opera, definitely a nighttime soap opera.
Yes, absolutely. But we also want to say, Caryn, that we also are, as executive producers, able to hire minorities that typically, people who look like us, who typically were not given the opportunity to participate just because they weren't in the club. So that to me is equally as important as getting a licensing deal. It's important for me to be able to hire colleagues that I know are deserving and don't get an opportunity.
And you've done that throughout your career. I mean, I believe there were foster children that you helped get positions on YNR and do all sorts of amazing things that I want people to know about this stuff. I mean, this is why wanted you, not that they don't know, but someone may not know that, to know the great work that you're doing, a program that I'm also a part of with my producing partner, Daniel Ferguson, is called the Legacy Project. And that is where we work with inner city kids on project-based, like journalism, to seed them with a bigger vision and picture than what might be available for them. And I know that happened for you with ballet, right? Am I understanding that? Is this accurate? I think that's young Vicky. That's young auntie, y'all. And if you could tell us, let me get rid of this comment. Thank you.
And by the way, Craig, yes, Daniel Ferguson. Yes, we have Black soap operas, Monogamy in the primetime space, if you will, and Young and the Restless, as a comparison. My show, The Rich and the Ruthless.
Yes.
But what Caryn and I are talking about is also, in addition, we're not stopping at one. We're not one-shot wonders. We're talking about getting a piece of the broadcast.
Yes.
Because taxpayers, a lot of money comes into broadcast television from federal money. And taxpayers pay into that. So why aren't we getting a piece of the federal money? If broadcast depends, not only broadcast, but big corporations depend on federal dollars. And you can read all about that. And we're not going to get into that right now. That's a whole other show.
Right, exactly. And I know that our time is winding down. So I want to invite you. Ballet. Yes. So we're going back to the ballet. Hold on one second.
I won a full scholarship. I was part of the Ford Foundation and then won a full scholarship to American Ballet Theater. And it was an amazing experience. At the same time, it was difficult as a poor person living in New York City at 17, dancing, and then emancipated out of foster. It was very difficult. I found myself briefly homeless, and it very difficult. And that's why I've never left the community of foster care. I continue to work in it. Because I understand not only in foster care, but people who live in poverty, because that's my community. Those are my people. And I appreciate the scholarships. But listen, folks, when a child gets the 4-year ride to Yale or to Howard, whoop, whoop. Look, make sure they have wraparound services, because it's very difficult for a child who lives in poverty to get that 4-year ride.
Yes.
And find themselves wondering, where am I going to sleep and what am I going to eat? Make sure that child has the wraparound services, and there's ways to do that, so that the child has a stipend and can flourish and not stand out as being poor, because that's a whole thing.
That's a whole nother exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's a very important point that you're making. I'm glad that you brought that around. It's because if we're using the analogy of soil, you have to have the conditions ripe so that that child can thrive and blossom in that environment. Otherwise, it truncates at the root, and it's all for naught. So I think that's a powerful point. I appreciate you saying that. Daniel Ferguson, let's talk about the Victoria Rowell biopic. You see these freckles, y'all? I'm putting my bid in. Putting the bid in to play. Which you guys should know that when I first was cast in The Rich and the Ruthless, Victoria called me herself, and my heart literally dropped, and then it jumped into my mouth. And I was trying to be okay, because here we are, we have this living legend who's calling me. And so I agree. I co-signed this Victoria Rowell biopic. There's so much to your life. There's so much to your life. It's so amazing.
It's a big story. HBO did option the book twice.
Awesome.
Let's just say there's conversations now with another group. However, I've learned to be a reed in the wind with this story. And I believe that it didn't land when I thought it should land, because God always has a different plan.
Yep.
And I realize now, Caryn, why it didn't land where it did.
Yes.
Because though we want things to happen when we want them to happen, God is cultivating something much greater that we can't even imagine.
Absolutely.
I think that's what's happening for my biopic, quite frankly.
You guys drop, an emoji in the comments. We all stand with you with that. And as we come into a close with this, what you're speaking about to me is the idea of patience, and that we don't plant a seed in the soil and then dig it up to see how much have you grown. We don't do that. We let it sit there. And as Ricky Byers-Beckwith has a lyric that says, a seed needs both darkness and light to grow. So the light being our sunshine, our happy moments, the things that bring us joy. But also what's needed is the manure, the darkness, the time for all that to come together and to birth itself. You talk about, Victoria, D not for difficult, D for determined. And a seed is determined. So it'll break through the soil in its right time, not a moment before and not a moment later. And I feel like that's the purpose of our life, that we will come forth and bring forth our gifts and seeds as long as we keep watering them in the perfect time, in the perfect way. So I thank you.
I love that. There's nothing more miraculous than being in New York City and seeing a blade of grass coming through the cement.
Concrete. What? Yes.
You're like, wow. And you see these trees lifting up the sidewalk pavement, the root system. I mean, you're right on point, Caryn, with the seed for MediTEAtions. Let me just get a sip. Let me just get Cheers, Caryn.
Cheers, Victoria. I have this is for you specifically. It says, you are my cup of tea, Victoria. A special class I want to have for you. Shout out to my amazing dear friend, Christiane King, who has a wonderful line, Block. I think I'm saying it right, by CK. I'm going to profile her on the show too. Wow. But I want to, in closing, because again, I know we have to go, is shout out to Entertainment Speakers, who is the premier platform dedicated to both diversity and expertise in entertainment. And I'm going to drop this comment so you guys can get their website, as well as the Legacy Project that I'm involved with, which is a great project. Go to lalegacyproject.com, the Los Angeles Legacy Project, because like you, Victoria, we're doing great work to help disenfranchised kids through media and journalism so that they can fulfill their ultimate potential. And that's what this is about. I love you guys. Any last comments for Auntie? Daniel said, can I adopt her? Well, we all adopted her. She's our Auntie Vicky.
I'm on Instagram. I'm on, thank you, Audrey. I'm on Instagram, hashtag Auntie Vicky with an I, VICKI. I'm on Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn. Shout out to Angela Northington and to Michelle Puffo. We can't help but say thank you so much for giving us platforms, women of color, opportunity.
Yes. Follow Entertainment Speakers Bureau, Angela Northington, Nichelle with an N as in nice. Nichelle Prothro, as Victoria said, they are women who are doing some amazing things in this business. So you definitely want to be on board and stay informed. And thank you, everyone. I'm going to let one last comment come in. Who might you be? Thank you, Clarissa. Great conversation. Thank you so much, Victoria. I'll let you get back to your prep. And I love you guys. I will see you next time, same place.
Thank you, Caryn.
Bye-bye. Thank you for my flowers. I don't want to go. This was so amazing. Bye-bye, guys. See you later.